If it isn't love,
If it isn't love,
why
why does
do
it
I feel this way
feel? Why does she stay?
in my heart,
Is it
mind?
mine? Both. She's in both.
She's in both.
She's in both. Your heart and your mind.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
A
So yeah.
little, start off with a little nod, right? Nod
Yes.
to the Seattle Seahawks celebration dance in the end zone that you can tell they took a lot of time, put a lot of work in it, a lot of effort, and
Several
I was
practices.
impressed.
Several
Yeah,
practices.
there were practices. There were several practices. I was impressed, and everyone should know that we were going to do the dance as well. But unfortunately, there is a video lag. So it would have just looked like one of us does not have rhythm
Right.
and can't keep the beat. And that is not true about either of us.
Yeah,
So,
we can't have that out there on the internet.
no, because people will come for you, and we can't have issues with us not having rhythm, and it's important. So anyway, we'll throw it out there that it was very cool to see.
Yeah, it was dope. We loved it.
It was flossy.
Yeah.
Or glossy.
And glossy.
It was glossy. Not so flossy for the or not so glossy for the Vikings. It was flossy for them to give up that touchdown pass, but it was very, very glossy for the Seahawks. So kudos to them. For sure. But yeah, let's jump into it. I'm excited to get rolling. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff that happened this past week, and it seems like a long week, right? Because
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving, and we pre-recorded on the Monday before Thanksgiving, so we have tons of stuff to cover. Some great stuff, some not so great stuff, but we're gonna keep it hot, keep it real, and we're gonna touch on the stuff that maybe even we wish we didn't have to talk about.
Right.
So
that's life.
It is what it is. That is life. It happens, and it is what it is, and we're going to address it. So you want to kick us off and start us off with our first topic up?
Yeah. So when we were starting this planning for this recording, we were going to talk about the Ravens and the 49ers. And just when we were wanting to do that, we got the little report from Bleacher Report that talked about the 49ers radio broadcaster who had the following to say about Lamar Jackson. Quote, these are his words he said on the radio. He's really good at that fake, Lamar Jackson. But when you consider his dark skin color with a dark football, with a dark uniform, you cannot see that thing. I mean, you literally could not see when he was in and out of the mesh point. And if you're a half step slow on him in terms of your vision, forget about it. He's out of the gate. Yeah, that's problematic on a lot of levels. So the 49ers responded with a suspension for the analyst. They said that he has expressed his remorse in public and in private, and they believe he is a man of high character and integrity, and they hope that he will grow and learn from this experience. Right. So here's what. So we've talked about this a little bit, but this is what I think. I think this is an older gentleman who probably didn't think anything about what he was saying. He thought it was completely harmless to describe Lamar Jackson's skin color in comparison with an inanimate object. Once again, people, the National Football League is a what % black with various shades of melanin mixed within. But he felt that it was pertinent at this point to compare not only Lamar Jackson to a brown football, but also to a jet black uniform. So there's no variation there. I mean, but he said that he's a big void of blackness, and you can't see anything that's going on there because he's so black.
Well, and it's such a problem. I think what he said is a problem. I think the response and the punishment is a problem, because what it does is there are two things. So the first point is, to your point, yes, he's an older gentleman, but I believe he's 47 or 57 years old, which means you are old enough to either understand at least and realize that there have been tons of movements in regard to the civil rights movement, in regard to the fight that African-American people have continually and constantly still to this day for equality and for the recognition and acknowledgement of basic human rights.
Mhm.
And so for someone who is involved with radio, so who's out there, who's hearing from a lot of people, engaged with a lot of people, talking to a lot of people, you have more of a knowledge base than someone who maybe grew up in a small town, who's never gotten out and doesn't have any kind of, I'm to the facial expressions you're making, that doesn't mean that he has done anything to change his opinions,
Right.
but I just am not willing to give him that extension of that he thought it was okay, because I feel like for someone in his position, he's done too much. He's been involved in too many things to think something like that was okay. And I think the second problem, huge problem that I have with it, is that to me, it takes away from the talent of Lamar Jackson.
Mhm.
Essentially, what he's saying is he's not actually good at what he does. You
Mhm.
just can't see the ball. So when you get ready to try and defend the run, you're a half step behind because
Right.
it's so dark in
Right.
that area that he's already gone. And now I'm playing catch up. Like,
Yeah.
give the man the credit that he deserved, because
Right.
not only is he running on people, but he's throwing bombs to people. He is doing a phenomenal job leading that offense, and the
Mhm.
team just looks great all around. So
Yeah.
I just have so many issues with what he said, and a 1-game suspension is laughable.
Right.
Laughable.
So I'm pretty sure they're going to give him some type of training, but don't you do that in the first place before you put somebody on the radio and you trust them with your audience? And right, once again, and just like you said, even he might be around people all the time, like of different ethnicities and different racial components, different skin colors. But there's like when he goes home, like what's his circle look like? Who is he talking to there? Like what was his, like, so it's hard to overcome. And then, like I said, just because he probably thought that was like that little statement, he probably thought nothing of it until it was brought to attention probably at the end of the game, or whenever they probably test him, like right after or something like that. I'm sure it let him know that it was a problem. Who knows? But to what was I?
Don't you hate when that happens?
Right. I was yeah, but to so he probably thought nothing of that until it was brought to his attention, because he probably thought, because for one thing, he doesn't think of his skin color as a color. So it's always like, once again, you're othering these players by saying that, by comparing them to basically black uniforms, to brown pigskin balls. So he would never do that to a white person. He would never compare them to their uniform or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So once again, it's just something that came to his mind. He probably thought there was nothing wrong with him comparing Lamar's skin color to the football. But we just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention, because like we said, we're going to talk about all the things that happen in football and things that concern us. So just want to keep you guys aware. That's what's going down, because even in a place like San Francisco, they want to, totally progressive over there. So they say you're going to have people.
Tim Ryan.
You're going to have people who are, just uneducated, and probably, like, once he leaves his job, his circle is probably just like him. He probably doesn't have friends or people.
Oh, yeah.
So
I would agree with that, but at least have the wherewithal to know if that's how you feel, say it in your circle, right? I mean, I think there are tons of people who assimilate, if you will, or assimilate is not the right word, but who go out and they're surrounded by people that look differently than them. And they say certain things to make sure that they don't come across a certain way. But to your point, when you get back into your circle, you're more comfortable. You can say, and I think that everybody does that. I mean, I think that I do that to a certain extent, not negative things, not racially charged or motivated things. So, but they're, just generally speaking, as a people and as a culture, there's some things at some points that you're just more comfortable talking about at certain times with certain types of people. So I think that's fine. Now, not what he's doing necessarily, but just anyway, I just think you can't let that happen. Yeah, exactly.
Like they talked about on Mixed-ish about 2 episodes ago.
There we go. I love those issues. The issues are good. I'm excited that the Grown-ish is coming back.
Girl, did you see that trailer?
I can't wait. I did. Can't wait.
So who you think?
I was about to ask you. I don't think it's Zoe.
It's not Zoe.
Because she's the main character.
Right.
It can't be her.
I think it's
Sky.
I think it's either Anna. Because
it
might be Anna, and it might be like, is it Aaron's? They're trying to bring in some of that drama, but it won't end up being Aaron. So I don't know. And it might, and I think it has to be like, or one of the twins.
Yeah, I'm going Sky hard.
Yeah, because she's in
her and
Doug.
Yep, her and Doug. I was about to call him by his government name.
Diggy.
Her and Diggy just got back together.
Yeah.
And her sister had the setback on the track and field team because she got injured, but now this is a setback so that's what I'm putting my cards down on. We'll see what happens.
I can't wait.
Yep.
I can't wait.
Hopefully I'm right, because I need to catch up with you with the whole Michigan State thing, which I really have fell off the wagon with that. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. All right.
I heard the timer, so I don't want to hold us up anymore.
All right.
I'm good at that.
Ron Rivera. Bombshell, surprise, shocking, firing. Like, where did they come from? That's your home state, Kim.
It is. And I've talked to a lot of people at work. I've talked to some friends that are much bigger Panthers fans than I am. And I've gotten some variety in what I'm hearing. Most people have been shocked. There's really only one person that I spoke with, one of my friends that I used to work with, that basically said it was long overdue. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was expecting it to happen, but he thought that he was a nice enough guy. But and so I just didn't realize that his job was in question. Now, I know they're under new ownership.
Yes.
And I know that they're changing of the guards, if you will. I know there are a lot of moving pieces, but saying and taking this step during the season, to me, says that they also are going to be moving away from Cam Newton next year. That's what that says to me, that they are cleaning house and they're starting back ground zero, and trying to build up. And I think, and you mentioned this when we were talking about it after we found out, and someone else that I spoke with agreed with you on this, that maybe there's something that they know that we don't know as far as getting ahead of the game with replacing him. But I'm not sure who that is. I can't think of anybody. I mentioned our boy Jason Garrett.
And one of my friends, be coaching somewhere. That's what Jerry Jones said, but he didn't say where.
Exactly. And somebody that I work with got really upset and basically was like, please, no. Please. So no one, it sounds like, or no, I shouldn't say no one, but from the small sample size of Panther Nation that I interviewed, would not be excited about that move. So we'll see. I mean, I think there's a lot of work they're going to be doing in the off season, from the coaches and management to also what are they going to do as far as the quarterback is concerned, who's going to lead that team. I'm trying to think of potential options. I know that Teddy Bridgewater, there's been a lot of talk about him moving away from the Saints because of what he was able to do while Drew Brees was out and injured. So he could be an option of potentially looking next year to go somewhere and sign a major contract.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what kind of moves people want to make. And as far as anyone else, no one else really comes to mind, because most people seem to be pretty set in where they are, but I
Yeah.
have to go back and do a little more thinking. But he jumped out to me as someone that has a similar type, to speak, a style of play that Cam had, but is younger, as far as just being able to have more variety in what he's doing. He's not a quarterback that's purely has to stay in the pocket and pass the ball.
Mm.
He can do some things. He's mobile. He can move.
Right, but he's more of a pure quarterback, a pocket quarterback. He's not a running quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you said, he is mobile. Like he can, if he has to, he will
Yeah.
get out of tricky situations. So, but yeah.
So potentially, I mean, I don't know what they're looking for exactly. I just know that the era of Cam and Ron Rivera is coming to an end.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I'm pretty sure this is this means this is the nail in Cam's coffin at Carolina. So you're looking at where he's gonna land. And
R.I.P.
Right, and who's gonna be willing to pick him up with like his injury history and like he's 30, right? So
yeah, something like that, 30, 31.
So
he's around that. And
so
he's not the quarterback that
fresh.
he used to be.
Right.
So he's a different quarterback, and I think what at least I personally noticed is he doesn't. The difference I see between a player like Cam Newton and someone like a Tom Brady, if you will, or other quarterbacks that have shown some longevity, even Phillip Rivers, who's had some struggles here recently, but has had a long career, is that they've adapted and they've changed as they've gotten older, and their bodies have changed. And a lot that you see with Cam is still trying to play the same way that he played when he first came into the league. And between the toil that his body has taken from all the running that he does, and then the injuries that he sustained, I mean, you have to know how to alter and adapt your game to the pieces that you have around you, but also to your skill set, your age. You got to take care of your body. I mean, and I think all of the greats in any sport know how to do that. I think if you look at LeBron James and the amount of money that he spent on his body and on people helping him to take care of his body, so that he can still play at such an elite level, being 34 years old, I think, something like that. And I just feel like Cam hasn't done a good job of doing that.
I mean, well, Cam's problem is that he's a running quarterback. That's his niche. Like his accuracy has never been like top notch. Like he's always hovering around the 57, 60 range of accuracy. So like his legs and his speed and his quickness.
They don't work. They don't work
So, but the thing is that's his on his list of skills. That's his top. Like the throwing is secondary. So when you have to rely just on the throwing, when it wasn't what you were good at in the first place, it takes you from being an MVP level quarterback to possibly somebody's backup, because he doesn't have the skills necessary to be a throwing quarterback. And the reason, and because his body has taken so many hits from running and because it has been shown that the refs don't give him all the calls because he's so big. He's got like that Shaq syndrome where people don't get call fouls on you or throw penalties because you're so big and they think you can and once again
absorb the contact.
Once again, another thing about being tall and black, and so that's a story for another day.
Well, and I agree with what you're saying as far as your assessment, but I guess the point I would say is when you know that eventually you're getting older and those things aren't going to work, then I feel like he could be doing things to get better. The same way that NBA scouts expect people to come in and develop a shot when they don't have a shot, they expect them to work at it. If you know that your throwing is weak, then do what you need to do to make it stronger. Instead of thinking, I mean, it's a reality check type of thing. You have to understand and realize that when you run the ball as much as Cam ran the ball, whatever tense we would like to use, that you're going to get hit. Eventually it's going to take a toll, and you're now having the longevity of someone like a running back versus an actual quarterback. Right. So I think, that was at this point, who knows if there's time for that to develop to
Right. I'm like,
your
maybe
point.
he's too far gone at this
Yeah,
point.
and it might be if he's in his 30s and maybe it doesn't matter at this point. Maybe he should have worked on it more and done that sort of
Yeah,
thing
he should have been doing them
younger.
back swivels.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite when I pretend like I'm good at football and can play. Do that. And,
Just
yeah.
open hips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All
My
right.
favorite.
So speaking of
anyway.
quarterbacks, maybe losing the edge. There's been some talk about Tom Brady. Maybe lose the edge. Maybe he's the weak link in the Patriots because they lost again. This time to rock star Deshaun Jackson, who was playing the air guitar on the field on Jokers. I'm like, he's having too much fun out there.
Yeah, Watson was
like he
having
had
such a good time.
flashbacks to Clemson out there playing against the Patriots. But yeah, so they lost again to Deshaun. I mean, that was a fun game, at least for me.
It was.
Maybe not for the Patriots.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game to watch, though. I thought.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm pretty sure not.
Yeah,
for the
right.
Patriots.
And they game plan like extremely well for the Patriots defense. So they just made sure they had a lot of short screen passes. At first they weren't really targeting their receivers. They were targeting their running backs, giving them short screen passes and things like that, just to get their yardage. And then once they loosened up the defense, they started, hitting getting their receivers in the game. And they got like one of the best in the game out there. So after that, Deshaun was throwing bombs like back to back to the end zone, like it was nothing. Like 10 people on the long balls in the end. It was just
it was crazy.
It was fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was fun.
And so much so, and I don't think. I mean, I'm not overly concerned. I feel like the Patriots in general now. To your point, Tom Brady's accuracy is way down. His completion percentage is way down. But he also, and this is always though, so I feel like this isn't really anything to let him off the hook because he never has all-star receivers. I mean, it's more times than not.
Had Gronk.
He did have Gronk, and that helped. Gronk was a very good big receiver, but he also was very good at blocking.
Yeah.
And so that has had an impact. And so I think with some of the personnel that he has around him, I don't necessarily see this as this big, oh my goodness, is Tom Brady completely washed up. And I don't think anyone's necessarily saying that. But there is a little bit of buzz of people saying whether or not it looks like he definitely needs to start moving towards retirement. So much so that one of the ESPN analysts was talking and saying that the Patriots need to bring back Antonio Brown. And so that to me sounds like you're in desperation mode. Right. I mean, they've only, and I don't think they're in desperation mode. They've lost, 3 games this season?
Two games
this season. Thank you. They've lost 2 games this season, and you're talking about bringing back Antonio Brown, who you just released. And if you wanted him there, you would have kept him.
Exactly.
I am all for being innocent until proven guilty. And so it's not just me saying because these allegations came out, but Antonio Brown is surrounded by drama. He's surrounded by personally like negativity. He's toxic and brings that toxicity to the environment, to the locker room. I just think he's just a bomb waiting to go off. You never know what you're going to get. You can't trust him. He's all over the place. And if you're actually trying to work towards a Super Bowl, I think having him is going to be a disservice. Yes, he's a phenomenal receiver. He's great at what he does.
Nobody can deny that.
Yeah, the off-field issues are too much and bring too much into that locker room. And what I've heard is that Belichick and Brady do a work very hard to create an environment with the Patriots and a winning environment and a no-nonsense kind of environment. And I don't think he'd be able to stay out of trouble long enough.
No.
Clearly, he was there, a week, 2?
Right.
And then the allegations came out and they released him. So there's nothing that's happened since he has been released from the Patriots to me that says, oh yeah, he deserves another chance at this very moment. you know, and oh, by the way, the NFL hasn't cleared him to play. So
Right. Yeah, and the thing with him being released by the Patriots was not the allegations. It wasn't the allegations that made them pull the trigger on releasing him.
that's
It was
right.
that he responded to
Mm-hmm.
that lady in the most malicious way. He was threatening her and her kids.
Yep.
So the thing about Antonio Brown is that he's so impulsive and reckless that you can't trust what he's going to do off the field. And talking about like if you're trying to win by any means necessary and you bring it in Antonio Brown, I think that says a lot about you and about your organization. And it says not that you don't value your women who are part of your fan base, who buy tickets for their families, who buy jerseys for their sons and daughters for Christmas and birthdays. And so I mean, we are out here, we spend our money when we
Yep.
are loyal. So, and by bringing in someone like Antonio Brown, who maybe he didn't do all those things that people are saying he's done, but he has responded in a way that does not show that you can trust him.
Exactly.
And I've never been a Patriots fan by any means. Like I just don't like them that much as an organization. Yeah. And so this would just confirm what I think about them anyway. So if they take the high road, that will show that they're not just all about winning, because, you know, they don't mind cutting people and cutting long-time players when it comes to their bottom line in terms to like their formula for winning. So, but by bringing in somebody who has his track record, just because you're afraid to go out there and trust what you have, that you can't trust your abilities as a coach, as an organization to pull through at this time. Yeah, I'm not down with the call, so we'll be monitoring that situation.
Yeah, well, and I will say I'd be surprised if they made that move, and the reason I say that is because the most recent kind of comparison that I can think of is Aaron Hernandez. And I know that it's different. I mean, there were multiple accusations of murder against him. But in the reading I've done and things that I've watched, documentaries, all sorts of things, just about the kind of dark cloud that followed him around, it became a problem in that organization, to the point that it ultimately led to him losing a great thing and a great opportunity that he had with that organization. Because you think about the fact that he was there when Gronk started at the same time. Right. So just imagine.
Yeah. They had both of them, like the two tight ends.
Yeah. And both big bodies, both great at jump ball situations, catching the ball, blocking, all sorts of things. So you think about what could have been. Right. And I make the comparison of that to the whole Antonio Brown situation, just not able to separate himself from the environment that just brings him down. And unfortunately,
I think he's the perpetuator of his environment. I
was going to say that too. I think he puts himself, I think he doesn't surround himself with the right people, but I think he also does a lot on his own.
He does a lot
on his own.
He has a lot of yes men, I think. And he needs someone who can hold him accountable, exactly. Keep him grounded.
But I agree with you. He causes most of his issues just because he can't control his own responses to things. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to college football. So
dun, 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 dun.
So we have
I'll take a short little quick interjection. I feel like I need to let the viewers know that there's a basketball game going on. So if you continue to see me looking up, I'm just seeing just checking in, seeing what's going on. I'm still here, but just seeing. But go ahead. I apologize.
So what's the score now, Kim? What's going on?
Well, just for a little update. So it's the Big Ten ACC Challenge. We are all tied up at 5 apiece, I think is what flashed. And let's see who just lost. Or Maryland, just won. Maryland just won 72-51 over Notre Dame. And the reigning national championship Virginia Cavaliers just lost to an unranked Purdue team. And Virginia, I believe, is ranked number 5, if I'm not mistaken.
They were.
So they just lost. and by a significant margin. I mean, it was double digits. I can't remember the final score, but at one point it had gotten close to the end there. It had gotten to about 20 points. So somewhere in between 15 to 20 points is what I'm going to say. And this just in, Cam Newton is now having foot surgery. So just load it across the bottom of the screen. So we'll throw that out there to, you know, backdate that to what we talked about. But college football.
College football. All right. So how about those tricky Auburn Tigers?
How about them?
How about the saying comes to mind, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So I'm not saying they cheated, but they definitely pulled out the tricks. And I was talking one guy at work who's an Alabama alum. He was like, it was a very Auburn win, and I was like, yes, you're right. It is a very Auburn win, because if they win those games, it's always by something like a trick play, a 1 second play, something at the end of the at the very
there are a couple that come to mind. You're right.
So they never just win like for like a blowout, but it's always like some kind of trick, something at the end. Yeah, something they do that's just like, it only happens for Auburn. But
right.
So when I because at the end, of course, Saban is probably still spitting mad about this whole thing, but he was set aside the 1 second that was added on to the end of the half to allow Auburn to kick that field goal. But at the end of the play, to seal the win for Auburn, they brought out their punt kicker onto the field. So Alabama thought because they bring up their punt kicker, they're about to punt the ball.
Yeah, which was good logic reasoning.
So that's typically what people would do.
Yes.
So really, they put a worm on the hook, and they baited Alabama into that. It was like perfectly done. But instead of the kicker going out there to kick, he went out there and lined up as a receiver. And once Bama realized that they were lining up to go for it on 4th down, it was too late. They had snapped the ball, so they got caught trying to make a substitute to accommodate for a 4th and 1, a possible 4th and 1, and seal the game. Lost. I mean, you don't see that people lose at the very end on an illegal substitution. Like, no, that does not happen. But I mean, like, further Auburn, they can't use that again ever, because it's not going to work again. But they used it that time. They used it against their rivals, and it's going to go down in history, in the Iron Bowl history. That's for sure. It's just one of those things.
Well, I'm just going to say roll Tide. And by that, I mean the tide is rolling in the opposite direction.
Rolling back. Yeah, they rolled back in the rankings. That's for sure.
They did. And you can cancel the college football playoffs for them. That is a done deal. And we had just talked about that not only did they need to win it, but they needed to do so in a significant fashion. So I think based on how they played that game, even had they won it, I think we still will be seeing something that's somewhat similar to the conversation we're having right now. So it's very interesting that this is where we are, and this is the first time they've been outside the top 5 since 2014, I think, 2015.
Since we've been into the college football playoffs system, this is the first time.
Yeah,
that started in 2015.
I mean, I'll ask you, because I always refer to you as our college football expert. Do you think that, do you think that this is a changing of the guards of sorts, where we have known Alabama to be this dominant college football program and Nick Saban to be at the helm of this dominant program? Do you think that this is just a fluke kind of one-off year, or do you see some things on the horizon that make you think that it's going to start being a little more competitive, and it's not going to be as comfortable to expect Alabama to be at the top of the playoff rankings?
Yeah. So I don't think this is going to change anything for Alabama long term. They're still bringing in the top recruits. They still have Nick Saban. I think this year he's probably going to do a lot of cleaning house in his defensive coaching staff, because that's where they were really let down this year. And defense is really part of like one of the stalwarts of their program. Historically, they're always so good defensively. Like their defense used to score like half of their points in a year because they would always have a scoop of score or some kind of turnover that they can provide points for the team. So I think this year, that's going to be an area of focus for Nick Saban. But once again, it's not that it's a lack of talent. I just think that they just got lazy this year in defense, which is the focus has shifted so much to offense. To Tua, the team is. I mean, as long as they had Tua, I mean, they had a shot to win, whatever, because he's just that type of talent. But yeah, they still bringing in the top recruits on the offensive and defensive side. So that's not going to change. But I do think because of the change in LSU and the culture change they made there, the coaching changes they made there, the philosophy changes, that it won't be as easy as it has been, because that's always been a rivalry from them for the last couple of years. Like they had won, like Alabama won 8 straight against LSU. Like there was like, you knew LSU wasn't going to win when they were going into the game. You were just hoping they might give them a game. So now that they have offense to match Alabama's offense, and I think I think that's the only area that I see where they might have hiccups in the SEC West. And then, losing to Auburn, I mean, they lose to Auburn every once in a while, every couple of years. So it's not a big deal. Like they lost to Auburn 2 years ago and they still got into the college football playoffs because Auburn lost to Georgia, when they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game. So no, I don't see this as like a knock on Alabama this year. It's just that they just had us. I mean, in sports, as you know, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you get very unlucky. And they had a series of things that they just got unlucky. Like Tua twisted his ankle 2 weeks before the game, and he came into the LSU game. He wasn't 100%. They had so they lost that game by 1 possession. So it wasn't like they had an opportunity to win that game against LSU, and this game against Auburn, it was just a series of defensive mistakes. Defensive mistakes. They had 2 pick sixes in that game as well. So it's just a lot of just penalties against them, which you don't see in Alabama a lot. So, but other than that, I think they're still gonna be one of the top teams that you have to always consider. They're gonna be. It's always gonna be Ohio State. It's always gonna be Alabama. It's always going to be Clemson. It's those teams, and we'll see what happens with LSU when they bring in their new quarterback. Because after Joe leaves this year, we have to see how they're going to continue their momentum. So we can see if they can build on what they've done this year. But you're going to always have those 3 teams that you can count on in college football as being the top teams, just because of the recruiting that they bring in, and because of the culture that they have of winning. Yep. So. Yeah, it was just one of those years where, sometimes ain't your year.
Look, we know. I know. Yeah. It happens. It happens. It does. Yeah. We got another update. The Big Ten is now up 6-5. So I'm not sure what game just ended. It just flashed across the screen that it's 6-5. And the UNC Ohio State game is about to start.
So hopefully it'll be 7-5.
Hopefully it'll be 7-5. And we did just start. I'm with you. And we did just, even now I can't. And we did just start about 20 minutes ago. NC State and Wisconsin started. The game was tied when I turned over 4-4. Okay. So not much action happening. It was starting off pretty sloppy. So I flipped over to this, see what we got going.
All right. So, I know you wanted to talk about OSU, Ohio State and Michigan.
Ohio State. Yeah, well, I did a little bit because I just have a question and I don't know that I have the answer for it. I know what I think, that
Mm-hmm.
response is and the answer is. But as we discussed last week, we talked about this game. We talked about the fact that we didn't think Michigan had a shot at winning. There were some people who thought Michigan might have a shot at
Michigan
winning, and I
alum.
heard some people discussing it. Yeah, Michigan alums. There you go. Some people, the only people. And not only did they not win, I mean, it wasn't competitive. And so my
It
question
was competitive
that I
for
have,
2.5 quarters.
I stand corrected, 2.5 quarters. It got away from
It got away
I'm
from
just
them
saying, it got away from them.
very
It
fast.
got
Though.
away from them.
Very fast.
Yes, yes. So since it got away from them and our end result is what the end result was, the question that I have is, when is a rivalry no longer a rivalry? Because in my opinion, there has to be a substantial, significant back and forth between wins and losses of each of the teams. It has to be a competitive rivalry.
Yeah.
And the teams have to show up consistently for it to actually be considered a rivalry. And you and I have talked about this before, right? As Duke alums, we very much consider Carolina a rival because the history between the two teams, but not only is it the history between the two teams, it's the back and forth. And it doesn't matter who's ranked where, you know that every time you are going to get a slugfest and you're going to get a great game. And it's going to be exciting. You hope that your team is on the winning side of it, and it hurts and you're devastated when they're not, but you need the back and forth, which is why we don't consider Kentucky a rival, right? Kentucky thinks we're their rival, and we don't even think twice about that. There's no acknowledgement because in the last 10 years,
they hate us, but we really don't think about them.
No. So that's my question. And maybe there's no answer right now, but I just wonder, like, at what point, if this trend continues and it were to continue for the next 4 years, it's been 4 or 5 where and it continues for another 4 or 5, are they still considered rivalry? Is this still a feast week game where, we have the big rivalry matchup? It's like, well, no, we don't.
No.
We don't. They're not.
Yeah, because I think because part of the rivalry is that your fans on either side, that you just don't like each other. Like you have this passion for them. Like you get up for this game. Like you want to win it so badly. But if you already go into the game knowing that you're going to win, you become kind of apathetic to the other team. It becomes like it just becomes another game, you know? So Michigan definitely has to do something to shake up what they're doing now. If they have to get rid of Harbaugh, if they need to, I don't know, do some different recruiting methods or bring in some, I don't know what they need to do, but it's not working. It is. So, I mean, and I hate, like, I love, like, for historical programs to stay historical programs and to keep up their legacy. It's just bad when you see like a historical program that's go down and tarnishes the image of like pretty much what their predecessors built for them. So I want Michigan to stay big blue. I don't want them to become little blue in football because I want to see it be a game. I want Michigan to win. I want there to be some shake up, so, and that's what fans want, like I said, we don't see the same old footage. After a while, it doesn't matter. So hopefully Michigan will get it together. I don't know, they'll find some kind of secret sauce to change what's going on there. But
the MJ juice, right?
They need some MJ juice bad. Yeah.
Don't they?
Right.
Don't they? But it's something interesting and cool to think about. Like, at what point does this just become, like you said, it's stale?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Right.
It's just another game.
Just another game.
As opposed to the game and the one you circle on your calendar when you see the season come out, you're talking about it. There's anticipation around it. So we'll see. I'm with you. I hope something changes because I can appreciate a good rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And so just to cap off our college football, I just wanted to talk about this Tennessee player who went out of his way to stumble ahead of a Vandy's player of a Vandy player on the sidelines, and I'm like, really? Like when do you get to the point where you can't separate? I mean, your critical thinking skills from being in your emotions of a football game. Like, when can you not draw the line? I mean, like, so this is going, even like it stems from, I guess, like even Myles Garrett and what happened there. Like, how can he draw, like, tell the difference or draw the line between what was, football aggression and just plain stupidity. I just think it's clear, just so disrespectful. I think it shows a lack of class and just to even stomp on somebody's head. That's just very disrespectful on all levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then when you having your cleats, that's that's just an extra layer onto it. And then when you said that he got suspended like for the first half of their bowl game, which I was dumbfounded to even learn that Tennessee made it to a bowl game this season. Like, what the world? Like, really? How did they end up 7-5? Oh, but
it happens though, right? That's what we're talking about. It happens.
I just hope there's somebody in his life who can, and I hope he's sincerely sorry, learned a lesson from this, and like, oh, I'll do it again if I could, because that's not the type. That's not the type of person you want to be. That's not the type of. That's not what you want your program, the image of your program, to be for Tennessee. Is that you are bringing up these young men, like they're in your custody pretty much for 4 years, like for the majority of 4 years. And this is what you get. He's stomping on people's heads. That doesn't say a lot about Tennessee football. So I just want to put that out there. Raise your kids right.
There we go.
All right, let's move on.
All right.
College basketball.
What else we got? College basketball, which is what I'm currently watching.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid. Let's rip off the Band-Aid and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
There's a big upset in the college basketball world. Our beloved, whichever way you're supposed to say it. I think it's just actually beloved. I think the beloved came from going to church.
I think that came from Prince, dearly beloved.
Or maybe, yeah. I feel like I probably got it from church.
The chicken and the egg.
From weddings. Yeah. Anyways, our beloved Duke Blue Devils men's basketball team shocked the world and didn't show up for the game against Stephen F. Austin. And they lost in overtime. And I personally think that they overlooked them. I think they were coming off of the high of winning that early season tournament in New York, beating Georgetown. They come back home. It's not a real game. They overlook it on the calendar. They're not really concerned. And honestly, probably not really concerned with Winthrop, who they played after, because they didn't play particularly well during that game, and it remained close most of the game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they played Michigan State last night that they actually looked like a quality team again. And I think it had to do with a lot of complacency. I think it had to do with not taking them seriously. And they showed up and they had no fear. They had nothing to lose. And they weren't threatened. Not that they should have been, but they just came and they played solid basketball. And that's what happens. Coach K said it best. It was a recipe for disaster, a recipe to lose a game. They missed, I think, 16 free throws. They didn't play defense well. I think they scored something like –
They just need to make one extra free throw. And
the game, I think they scored like 64 points in the paint, something ridiculous that.
Yeah.
I mean, and just the defense that we had talked about as being so
Your calling card.
solid,
Yeah.
very good, was non-existent because the points in the paint were pretty much uncontested.
Ridiculous.
I mean, they were just running down and just laying stuff up, and there was not a body on them. It's not like they were shooting over guys, because you can appreciate it if someone has better offense than good defense, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But they played well, they executed well. Hats off to them. They deserved to win. Duke did not deserve to win. They didn't play like they wanted to win, and when you don't play like that, more times than not, a loss is what you have. Sometimes you get lucky, and I think even at the end, they just still felt, oh, we'll do enough to win, or thought they were going to get lucky, and they did not. So what happens? You get embarrassed on your home court. So, anyway.
Yeah, that win.
But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was like, that win really highlighted that we have a young team who at that time did not understand college basketball, like leaning on their high school morals, where where they could just rely on their talent to bring out a win. Everybody's talented in college basketball. That's why they're playing in college basketball. These are scholarships that these other kids have earned because they've shown that they were worthy of earning or their place on their roster. So it's not like they playing some chumps, So just learning that this is a different world, and also about being prepared, about just being in the zone, like you're like making the click of on defense, like how you're going to communicate all the time, how you need to stay communicating. And I think they panicked in that game too, because after it came to the point like, oh, we're not going to pull away, they lost the basics, and that was clear to see, and it tunneled down to the free throw line, and and everything else, all the turnovers. My gosh, we had so many turnovers. And then once again, like we already talked about ad nauseum about how our offense is not the best. It was like the worst ever.
Even worse, yeah. Absolutely.
So I felt I'm like, put Joey in, please. Just put him in. He gonna put up the three, and more than likely
he's gonna make it.
It's gonna
Yeah.
So, I mean, just I'm like, put him in because no one else is producing any points. And I think the follow-up game against Winthrop, they were just really tight because you're like, oh, you can't let this happen again. So I felt like that was more of the situation in that second game. But still also hard to watch. But then they turn around, Kim, and they try to act like they were freaking monsters. Last night when they played Michigan State, I'm like, will the real Duke Blue Devils please stand up? Please stand up.
I'm here. Here.
So, right. So hopefully this will be signs of things to come, because at one point I was like, what is going on? Did Javin make that?
Javin was playing like a Division I Duke men's basketball scholarship player.
He was playing like a Miguel.
He was all over the place. He was doing the very glue type of small things that the person in his position is supposed to do,
right.
and he wasn't or hadn't been doing that leading up to that game. And so if we can get, I hope that can be a turnaround or kind of a coming out party, if you will, for him, and he can continue to do this as we move forward in the season. And if they can have whatever the mentality was that they had to put on that showing, I don't know if it was because it was such a huge televised game, there was so much hype around it. I don't know if it's because Michigan State knocked us out of the tournament last year, or I don't know if it's generally speaking they wanted to prove that, look, we had a rough week and we want to make sure people know that we are here and we are talented and capable. But whatever it is, whoever said whatever they said to them, whatever they did to hype themselves up and get themselves playing that way, I need them to find that mojo moving forward every game. And of course, every game isn't going to be a perfect game. Every game isn't going to look like that.
But
for me, that's what I was going to say. At a minimum, and that's what frustrates me more than anything. The fact that if you're out there, put forth the effort,
Right.
do what you can, run the plays that you can. You can't always win, but if I see effort, I see
Yeah.
heart, I see that you're trying. I'm never okay with the loss, but I feel a little better. At least you tried,
Right.
and you got beat by a better team.
Right.
Versus, oh, I'm just moping around, going through the
Right.
motions,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, they
That's
had
the stuff
6 blocks last
handle.
night. And like
Yeah,
where was that effort in the paint against Stephen F. Austin? But Kim, I have to tell you, so I have like this 7 degrees of separation from Stephen F. Austin, like the 7 degrees separation from Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
Okay. So
I'm ready.
Stephen F. Austin. So you remember in what was it, 2014, 15, when they made that Cinderella run in the tournament?
I do.
And they had that one player who hit that shot at the end, who pretty much sent them to, what was it, the Sweet 16?
Yep, I do.
So that player grew up around the corner from me.
What?
Yes, he's a native Mississippian like me. We grew
M-I, crooked letter I.
Yes, so we grew up around the corner, and so that same player went on to be an assistant coach at Stephen F. Austin for a couple of years, and he had summer camps for basketball. You know, every college team has a basketball summer camp for kids.
Right.
And both of my nephews attended those camps with him.
Look at that.
Right, and one so stayed with him. Stayed on the campus of Stephen F. Austin for like a week.
That's crazy.
One like the MVP for the tournament. The other one some kind of special award too, because I got some baller nephews, and
yeah, absolutely.
So right, so yeah, that was my.
That's dope.
Yeah, so I was like, my brother texted me. He was like, it had to be. If it was like, why did it have to be Stephen F. Austin? It had to be a team, like, because it had like some close connections to it.
I got you.
And at the end of the day, you know what? I wasn't like even that upset about the game because I saw it coming.
Yeah, same. And when you play like that, I mean, it's hard to get upset when, again, to what we were talking about, the effort just wasn't there, and it looked like we're just going through the motions and the steps, and eventually we'll get enough points to win, and we're not actually going to try. Kind of almost and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, and I don't think this is how Duke players generally approach people, but almost like an elitist sort of attitude of I'm a Duke player, and because I play for Duke, we always figure out how to win, and it'll be okay, and I don't have to try.
And especially at home.
Yeah, you don't lose at Cameron.
You don't lose. I mean, right?
Like ever.
A conference team.
Ranked, non-ranked, conference, non-conference. And obviously they've lost to Cameron before, but I always put the chances of us winning up even higher against anybody if it's at home.
Right.
So
especially a non-conference team though.
Yeah. Since what, 2000, 19 years.
Yeah.
I think it was 2000.
It was something like that when they play St. John.
Something ridiculous. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I digress.
So let's quickly talk about the problems that are going on at Georgetown. Like, they have 4 players so far who I know 2 for sure won't be playing for the rest of the year, and 2 who are under investigation for sexual assault and burglary. Yeah,
there's some allegations, and there's some restraining orders as between some of the women and some of the players, that their homes were burglarized, and you have to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that these sexual assaults happen, kind of all this stuff happened at the same time, the same series of events, not separate events. So it's really crazy, and the main reason is because based on the way Georgetown played in the tournament that we just played against them, I mean, they had a very good showing, and they played us very tough. They played us hard. They played very good defense. It was a very physical game. Yeah. And I remember just thinking like, oh man, this Georgetown team is, especially as you move throughout the season and get even more experience. Yeah. This is going to be someone that people need to be somewhat concerned about, if you will, and take very, very seriously. And then you find out that you have all this stuff and all these allegations, and you know how it goes with college basketball. You can't take those types of chances because
Unless you're
NCAA
Michigan State.
investigations. Unless you're Michigan State, you can't take those types of chances, and you potentially end up having to forfeit stuff, and so you make decisions that you make. But it's pretty crazy that within a span of a couple of weeks, they went from, at least in my mind, being kind of up here a bit with, okay, we're here, let's let everyone know that we're need to be part of this conversation, to now missing players and seeing how they're going to fill those voids, but also just the kind of drama and conspiracy around like what's going on. So we'll see how that unfolds in the coming weeks, and hopefully for their sake, it's not a situation where even more players were involved, because that's something you just, I mean, I just hate to see that for anybody.
Yeah, right.
You know, they're kids and they're making bad decisions.
Stay with you
so
forever.
It's unfortunate.
Right.
Yep, and it's unfortunate. So.
Right.
And again, the opportunities, much like we were talking about with some of the NFL players, you have all the opportunity in the world, but unfortunately the decision making, whether it's a crowd you're hanging around or if it's just you personally making those decisions, just really controlling your future by making some very, very bad decisions. So it's sad and unfortunate.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
I'm pretty sure that the program that Patrick Ewing is trying to build there does not condone that type of behavior. So that's why it was even more shocking too about that. But one thing too is that Georgetown did do the right. They didn't try to sweep it under the rug like a Baylor. Yeah. And so they're facing this head on, which I think is something that we should applaud, because a lot of times like these programs is all about winning, and so. I'm glad that they are taking the necessary steps to show that they don't stand with that type of behavior. And hopefully, I just hope you hate to see stuff like this, and just hopefully that they learn and grow, and that whatever punishments that they receive is applicable to whatever they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed.
Right. So the NBA man.
Yeah. And I know we've run over a couple things, and I don't think we necessarily have a ton to say about this, but we wanted to at least make mention of talks of this mid-season tournament that is kind of floating around, and just give some basic thoughts. What's your opinion on this particular suggestion, if you will, or idea?
Yeah. So I know. So with the NBA, I guess with this mid-season tournament, I guess the idea is just they're trying to enhance the competition, throughout the whole season, so that people that you not just playing for the playoffs, but you're also playing for this mid-season tournament, which they have some kind of incentives. They're talking about like some type of cash incentives for the players, maybe some draft picks if you win, things like that. But I feel like they're going to have a hard time selling it to the players themselves, because and the teams, because that's a hard sell when you're asking your players to go out there for a mid-season tournament where they can have to extend themselves and possibly get hurt. Season ending injuries can occur in that type of play when the ultimate goal is not for like months away. And so like, how can you make that worth it? And I'm like, and who came up with the idea in the first place? So I don't know, maybe if that's a product they're trying to do, maybe they can do that maybe with the G League teams. If they're trying, like maybe they can bring, so maybe the affiliate G League teams can be playing for the NBA teams, and and maybe there can be some type of incentive for them to play harder, because like they need the cash. But
absolutely.
But the thing again,
they're not making much.
Right about that is that who will people tune in to see that? Maybe not. But so I don't know what the solution is, and I don't know if that's a viable event that the NBA should invest in the first place.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is the NBA would have a lot of work to do to figure out what that looks like, because we're already talking about this whole conversation of load management,
Yeah.
right? And you have people sitting out games early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? Are you taking away now games away from the regular season? How many of those games do you take away to make it
Mm-hmm.
worthwhile so that
Right.
it balances out? Because if you're just going to be adding this tournament and you don't take away a significant amount of games, especially if you're the team that makes it all the way to the final round. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you talking about a series type thing close to what you would do in postseason
I
play? Or are
think it's
you
gonna
talking
be
about
like
more of a legitimate tournament,
yeah, I think
a
like what
win and go home, or excuse
right,
me,
yeah,
lose and go home type of
right.
situation? But even with that, you have to think about, well, the team that loses out in the first round only has one extra game, whereas maybe the team that makes it all the way to the end, or the two teams,
Right.
have 6 or 7.
Right.
So what does that look like within the confines of the regular season, and what that means for everything? So it's one of those things that, like, almost in theory, someone throws it out there and you kind of toil around with the idea, but when you start to try and implement and get some real backing to it,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of squint your face and say,
I
yeah,
think
maybe
so.
not.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so I don't
like
know.
James said, this ain't college.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can like reproduce the magic of March Madness in the NBA.
Especially not in the middle of a season. Like the point of
Right.
it is, you lose, you go home. There's so much on the line for these teams. Like,
Right.
that's it. This is the last game. I mean, it's why they put the camera in the faces of the kids that are crying every time when they lose,
Yeah.
because there's so much. It's not just that I lost
Right.
a game. I lost the game. My
Right.
season is
Right.
over.
Right. Right.
Your senior, your career, maybe. Let's say you're not someone that's going to the NBA. Your career is done
Yeah.
potentially. I mean, there's just so much writing on it, and
Yeah.
you can't. There's no way to take that and translate it to watching professionals who are getting paid millions of dollars to be there,
And then if they
play
lose,
in a
they're like, oh
mid-season
well, we
tournament.
still have the playoffs.
Exactly. At least I have my regular season game in 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, yeah, so you're right, the playoffs, but like before you even get there, okay, well, I guess I'll look back at the schedule and see who I'm playing next
Yeah.
week. All right, no big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's kind of a wash personally,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll see
Yeah. I would be
if anything
surprised if
significant comes
that
of it.
has any legs. But
Yes, same.
Zion watch.
It's my Z for Zion. Also for Zubek.
Zoo.
Zoo. Yep. Yeah, so just a quick update. It has been announced that Zion is back on the court, and that he is now doing some non-contact, kind of slow transition back to playing some basketball, doing some drills,
Mm-hmm.
and also doing some shooting and things like that. So he is on his way. He's taking steps in the right direction. And again, it's a slow process, as was expected by everyone, but just want to keep everyone updated on where it stands, and we'll keep letting you know as things unfold. My
Yeah.
mom has now called me a couple times, so she probably thinks,
That you're.
I texted her. Yeah, she does. And I texted her after the first time, and I said, call you right back.
Yeah.
But her phone sometimes, it's her phone. Her phone
Okay.
sometimes, she doesn't hear it, or it doesn't make the noise. And so I think that's probably what it is, but I'll call her back in just a second. I'm gonna send her another text.
Okay.
We'll get there.
All right. So Noe wants to close out on some things that were going on in the world of women's sports.
Oh, there we go. We got a response. Good.
Okay,
Yay.
good. Yay.
Yeah. Yes, because I don't want her to worry.
Right,
Something's
yeah.
wrong.
Have the police coming over
So
to your
good.
house.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm okay. Okay. I'm ready.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, in the world of women's sports, we had these upsets are not just happening in men's basketball. This is a free for all across the whole college basketball spectrum.
Yep.
So the top 2 teams in women's basketball both lost on Saturday. So we had Oregon, who we were just tuning like their horn major because they had beat Team USA. They lost, and then we had Baylor, who also lost. And so it is just showing that I think that the women's sport is in a good place, because you have teams who are able to beat other teams. You don't have dominant teams. It makes it, like we discussed like in the previous episodes, how it makes it a game that's more interesting to watch because you don't know what's going to happen. You just know you just know you're going to see some good basketball.
Yeah.
So I think it's exciting that these losses happen. Once again, they're not my teams, so
It makes it a little more exciting, right? When it's
right, I
not your
can feel
team
as
that has
excited
to
as
be on the
right.
losing end.
Yeah, but I think it's good for women's basketball. What do you think?
I agree. I just remember, especially when we were in college, and even really, it's only been in the last 2-3 years, probably closer to two, where there has been some variety and some
Mm-hmm.
shakeup in the teams that are top ranked in college basketball on the women's side.
Yeah,
As we all know, it was UConn, and
yeah,
so it almost was to the point that when you got to your tournament, there really was no reason to have any hype about it, because
yeah,
even when you talk about Cinderella stories, what's the point of getting excited about the mid-major team beating some squad, because they're just going to eventually run into UConn and it doesn't matter, and,
yeah,
and
oh,
and
yeah,
that's going to be the end of it. Yeah,
yeah,
there was no potential spark to see something continually happening and to see someone make a deep run,
yeah,
because that's just who they were up against. So I agree. I like when there is the variety. Again, it's not my team. I would be fine, quite frankly, if Duke won the national championship every year. But we know
you
that's not
know,
going to happen.
that would be
So that's
awesome.
why, yeah, it'd be great. But we can say that because we know it's not actually going to happen.
Right.
The men's basketball world is just different,
Yeah,
and I'm glad to see that the women's game is starting to follow suit, where there is more variety and there can be that excitement.
yeah.
Because I remember, I guess it would have been Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm. Hill
Yeah, I
State.
know, I know. Yep, I remember them and watching, not last year, the year before. I'm getting confused, but I remember watching them and being excited
Yeah,
when the shots at the buzzer were made, and it just being like, this is great, because
yeah.
before then Mississippi State had never been huge on the radar before the last
Right.
couple of years,
Yeah.
and now they're starting to make some noise in women's
Mm-hmm.
basketball. So I appreciate the variety. And I think it's good for women's basketball and generally in sports, when you have that variation and you have different people that
Right.
have an opportunity to win it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you on that.
Fun times. All right.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna close it out with our girl Megan Rapinoe. So she won the female Ballon d'Or. I think I'm pronouncing it
Hmm.
right. If I'm not, you know what I'm talking about. Um,
Yeah. I
so
don't speak French, so
right,
the golden
the
ball. I'll
Golden
say it in
Ball,
English.
y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this award means that pretty much because football is an international sport. It crosses boundaries and they play for home and country and also for like their club teams, because it's so worldwide that this award is for all of the world in football. So out of
Hmm.
all the female players in the world, she received this award because her year was just so epic. And so that's just another feather in her cap, another trophy on the shelf. Like pretty much she has all the big awards now for women's
Hmm.
soccer, women's football, and that's pretty awesome. Um,
Absolutely.
but her message when she received it was she was making a plea to the iconic male football players, to Lionel Messi, to Cristiano Ronaldo, to Ibram, I can't pronounce his
I
last.
don't even. I don't
He
even
just
try.
the guy who just left. The guy, yes, him. You know who I'm talking about. But anyway, she was making a plea to these guys to stand by women players, like to in their fight for equal rights in football, for their fight for equal pay, for recognition and what they bring to the game. And I mean, and she's always bold. She doesn't care about calling out people. But
Mm-mm.
but to be honest, I haven't seen anything from these players that show that they give two figs about anyone besides themselves. So, yeah, all the stories you hear from them is that they are trying to evade taxes in Spain, or that they have some kind of sexual assault charge from Vegas. So and so everything. I, so that's one difference I think in football is that is very like mine is mine. Is not like a sport where you see a lot of political activity on a world stage of
Yeah.
social activism per se. So I get what she's saying, but I don't think Messi and Ronaldo are the people who are going to stand by her, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Just back to the award in general. I mean, it is amazing that she has received
Yeah.
this honor. Because initially the award was created by the French, and it was supposed to be a European thing, and mainly because football is so prevalent, so popular in Europe. But it then became this worldwide opportunity for other people to be recognized, and this is just the second year that they've created one for women's football players. And in the second year, you have Megan Rapinoe who wins it, excuse me, and then the person receiving the third place votes was Alex Morgan. So just really a nod and shows the talent of the U.S. women's national soccer team, but also, you know, what, like you said, what they're doing for their individual club teams as well. And to your point, and we discussed this a bit about her making this call or charge to the prominent male athletes in that sport. I think you're right that not much will come of it, but I can appreciate that she's using the platform. And she even said herself, I have this platform, I have the ability to kind of say whatever I feel and do it respectfully, but also talk about these social injustices and talk about the unequal pay and all these sorts of things. Because of her status. But we talked a bit about if there's going to be some actual change, that it is going to take people who are on the other side of the coin to band with the women that are fighting for it. Yep, you always need allies in any movement. You always have to have the allies that are part of the class that's trying to be tapped into, or the class that or people, if you will, that have the rights or whatever it is that the other people are trying to access. So I can understand why she's making the call that she's making. Whether or not anyone picks up the phone and answers, who knows?
Yeah, but what it does put a spotlight on them and what they are and what they are not doing. So at least he's bringing awareness to the fact that they aren't doing anything, that this is not a concern for them. So like, what does they say about you if your fave doesn't care about your other fave, you know?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so we'll see. And maybe at a minimum, it gets some other guys, men who are in the sport to start speaking up and stepping up. And so maybe they're calling for these very prominent football players that are household names, but maybe you get some of the smaller named, if you will, people that maybe everyone doesn't know as much about to start trying to make some strides and build some traction.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. So so we'll see. Megan, she's not gonna stop. She's gonna keep fighting. She's one of those.
Oh, absolutely.
She's one of those type
you
of
can
people.
guarantee that.
So this is not going away. So it is not going away, and especially with the Olympics coming up, it's just going to be on your radar. So all the luck to women's USA women's football and women's football as a whole, and their fight for equal pay.
I agree.
Yeah. So.
All right. Cool.
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting and while we're here, I'll give you this last update that I have here on the games.
Okay.
So, the Ohio State is leading Carolina 27-24 at the moment. We've got a little collision. There's blood on the court. Cole Anthony just got hit in the head. Yeah, he's bleeding pretty badly. I didn't see what happened.
He and Tyler Hansbrough can be fraternity brothers, and the UNC players bleeding on the court.
Yeah, I will say the difference this time is that it wasn't a punch to the face on purpose, but you know, it's a little different circumstances.
Did it on purpose?
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do it on purpose. I'll
Okay.
say that.
All right.
I just look, that's the homie, and I'm not trying to defame him or speak against him in any way. And I absolutely love him as a player. And the few times that I interacted with him when we were in college, he was always super, super nice and down to earth. I think it was one of those things we talked about, a frustration type of thing.
Yeah.
I think, and you know, a lot of people have been there, bless his heart. But
Yeah.
it's also bad that I wasn't super upset.
Well, no,
I'm not saying that
crushed that game, so
we were just gotta have something to ride home on.
right.
Not saying that I condone what he did,
Yeah.
either, but you know.
Yeah,
you
it was Tyler Hansbrough. Who cares?
It was.
I don't condone violence, people. All right.
There we go.
So yeah, that's it.
Yes.
For Sports Floss Gloss, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
Always a pleasure. We'll see you next week. Can't wait.
Deuces.
Keep it flossy and glossy. More glossy than flossy.
But still floss.
But still floss, yes. Every day.
Every
day.
That's important. Okay, that's it.
Yes.
Bye.